Okay, so let's move on to the rules for this guy. So I'm going to talk about the Expeditionary Navigator rules. These are available on Forge World's website as a PDF, so this is a freely available set of rules. As far as I've seen, it's never been published in an actual Forge World rule book. So let's discuss all the details around it, because this is the Navigator is a weak character in physical terms and combat prowess. He has many interesting supportive capabilities and some formidable even offensive capabilities through his navigator mutation. So he's a normal human profile, although his ballistic skill and weapon skill are only 2. He has a very high leadership stat of 10, and his basic armor save is only 6+, so not even as good as flak armor. In terms of equipment, though, this does make up for it, because as well as his Etherlabe staff and Archaeotech pistol, he is equipped with a refractor field and a close combat weapon. So the refractor field gives him a reasonable invulnerable save. You can buy him Cyber Familiar to increase that by a further point to take him up to 4+ invulnerable save. So that's something I would probably do routinely. And if you wish, you can also buy a Nuncio Vox and digital lasers to give him some additional combat prowess. There's a few special rules. He has the Navigator powers, which we're going to talk about in detail. He's an independent character, so you can join squads, and he causes fear. So that is very useful, particularly in the Horus Heresy era, where fear is more powerful because, of course, Space Marines do not have the special rule of they show no fear. In terms of his structure in the army, he is a non-compulsory HQ choice, and he can never be an army warlord. However, at a cheap price of only 50 points, that shouldn't stop you getting him into your army. Okay, so let's talk about his special rules. So the first thing is his Etherlabe staff. This means if anyone deep strikes within 12 inches of a navigator, the navigator and their unit can make a snapshot attack. If that deep strike is achieved via a conjuration psychic power, those snapshots are resolved at full ballistic skill as opposed to ballistic skill 1. So equipped with a area denial unit, he could be a very potent combat to psychic deep striking. Okay, his next special rule is around what are called the Navigator powers, and he has 3 of these. Now, he can try to do these special powers. He has to pass a leadership test. So the leadership test, he has a good chance of succeeding it. He isn't a psyker, however, he does count as a psyker for purposes of the rule hatred. So if someone has hatred of psykers, they will have hatred against the navigator, but it isn't. The navigator itself is not a psyker. So an interesting quirk of the rules there. You can attempt to as many navigator powers as you want, although you can only do 1 per phase. And there's 3 of these, and let's talk about them. The first, and this is the very potent direct combat ability, is called the Lidless Stare. And in this ability, the navigator opens up his third eye and exposes those in front of him to scenes of the warp and the immaterium. Those who do not avert their gaze quickly enough will be turned into shriveled husks by the terrors they see. So this is a shooting attack, and it uses a template, so standard flamer template, shall we say. And any infantry type model, which is friend or foe under the template, has to pass an initiative test. A failure of that initiative test means you suffer an automatic instant death wound with no armor saves possible. So that makes a navigator a threat to even the highest level heroes, apart from those equipped with Eternal or have the special rule of Eternal Warrior. He's a very, very deadly special ability. And if there are any slightly below average initiative troops that you're fighting, that's going to be particularly effective. So, for example, Mechanicum Talax, which only have an initiative score of 2 and are infantry, they have 3 wounds and can be hard to kill normally. This guy has got a 3+ auto chance of killing them. Very deadly. And there is plenty of Marines with lower initiative stats that could also be used against that. And even, the template as well, if you're fighting a large bunch of, say, tactical or assault marines, again, you can score a large number of target casualties there, and that also stacks up with his fear ability as well. The second shooting phase ability he has is called Warp Prescience, and this basically allows the navigator and his unit to be forewarned of enemy shooting attacks. So what happens then is any shooting attacks that are made against a navigator or his unit suffer a -1 ballistic skill. So that's a useful damage mitigation capability. A quick, and twinned with the right sort of squad, that could make substantially toughen up a squad, particularly if you've got, say, the navigator along with them and a apothecary or a medic to grant feel no pain. Then you impose a shooting penalty and a medic roll, so you make your unit far tougher than normal. The third ability, this you will always be able to use as well as one of the other two, is called Etheric Disruption. And this is a very broad psychic denial ability. So what you would do is you attempt to do this at the start of his turn, and if you're successful, the entire of the field is disrupted, and any psychers, which also includes your own, so be cautious, but any psychers who suffer a peril of a warp result have to roll 3 dice and discard the lowest result when making that test. So in other words, it increases the risk of failing a perils of a warp result. So that's a very potent area denial ability against enemy psychers, and all enemy psychers on the table. If all 3 of the navigator powers, if you fail a test, then the navigator becomes pinned, although they don't go to ground. So yeah, there is a consequence of failing your roll. So I think the Expeditionary Navigator is an excellent support HQ choice, and for a relatively small amount of points, you can grant your army some really unique and often very potent abilities. So I think he'll certainly feature a regular feature in my Marine forces and my Solar Auxiliary force. Now, recently, in the last week or two, we've got visibility of the rules for the Sisters of Silence in the new Prospero box game set, but the GW's also released a PDF set of rules, and I was thinking about what would work well in forces, and Sisters of Silence would go very well alongside a navigator to really stack up anti-psyker capabilities in a force. So you have a navigator with your etheric navigator powers, then you also have the Sisters of Silence with their psychic denial capabilities. Put the two alongside each other and you've got some very potent abilities there, and if your opponent is relying on psychic powers, then they are going to be severely hampered as a result. So I hope you have found that review of the Expeditionary Navigator interesting. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and I'll be happy to discuss. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.